The studio lights were blinding, but the air in the room felt sharper than usual, like a storm waiting to break. The set of The View was buzzing with its usual energy, hosts chatting, audience clapping, producers waving their hands behind the cameras, but there was something different today. Maybe it was because Keanu Reeves was the guest. The applause was loud when he walked in, but Keanu's entrance was humble as always. He wore a dark jacket over a simple shirt, his hair falling naturally around his face. He smiled, nodded to the audience, and shook hands with each host. It wasn't a movie star entrance. It was the entrance of someone who saw people. Not cameras, but across the table. Joy Behar watched him with an expression that wasn't entirely welcoming. She leaned forward before the pleasantries were even finished. Keanu, you've made headlines recently for some of your comments about, let's say, American values. Do you really think Hollywood actors should be lecturing the public? The air shifted. The audience gave a low murmur. Keanu stayed still, his hands resting loosely in front of him. I don't think anyone should lecture anyone, he said quietly. But I do think we should share stories, because stories are how we see each other. Joy tilted her head. Stories are fine. But you've been talking about kindness like it's some magic solution to real problems. Don't you think that's a little naive? The audience grew quieter. You could almost hear the hum of the lights overhead. Keanu didn't flinch. I don't think kindness is magic, he said. I think it's work, real work. And I think we've forgotten how powerful it can be. Another host tried to step in, but Joy wasn't finished. So you're saying we can just smile our way out of economic collapse? Hug away political division? Keanu leaned forward slightly, his voice low but steady. No, I'm saying that we can't solve any of it if we refuse to see each other as human first. And if we think compassion is weakness, we've already lost more than we know. A ripple moved through the audience. Some people clapped softly. Others just watched, waiting for what would happen next. Joy gave a quick, tight smile, but there was an edge to her voice now. Well, maybe some of us live in the real world, Keanu. Keanu didn't look away. I do live in the real world. I've seen it break people. I've been broken by it. But the reason I'm still here, the reason some of the people I love are still here, is because of the small, real kindnesses that nobody talks about. And I think if we all shared those stories instead of tearing each other down on live TV, the real world might be a better place. The audience erupted in applause this time. The sound filled the studio, but behind it there was something else, tension. Joy's eyes narrowed just slightly and Keanu stayed calm, almost too calm. Then something happened no one expected. A woman in the audience stood up, clutching a photo in her hands. Her voice shook as she spoke. Mr. Reeves, you don't remember me. But 20 years ago, you stopped on the side of the road in the rain to help me fix my car. I was pregnant. I had no money. You gave me $50 and told me to get home safe. That baby's in college now. I just wanted to thank you. Gasps moved through the room. Joy looked momentarily stunned. Keanu's face softened. Remember, he said quietly. It was on Highway 3. You were driving a blue sedan. I'm glad you made it home safe. The woman wiped her eyes and the audience broke into another wave of applause. Louder this time, warmer. But somewhere in the control room, a producer leaned into a microphone, his voice tense. We've got something. Keep the cameras rolling. Because what no one in the studio knew yet was that this conversation, this clash, was about to spill far beyond daytime TV. And when it did, it would change more than just the headlines. The moment the show ended, the energy backstage felt completely different from the usual post-interview chatter. Producers moved quickly, earpieces buzzing, phones lighting up with notifications. Audience members lingered longer than usual, some wanting to shake Keanu's hand, others whispering about what they'd just seen. Keanu slipped quietly out of the main hallway, avoiding the cluster of cameras that always seemed to appear after a controversial segment. He wasn't interested in feeding headlines. He just wanted to breathe. But before he could make it to the side exit, a voice stopped him. Mr. Reeves? It was the woman from the audience, still holding the photo. Her hands trembled as she approached. I didn't mean to make things awkward on the show. But I've been waiting a long time to tell you that story. Keanu gave a small smile. He didn't make things awkward. He reminded me why I believe what I said in there. She glanced around, lowering her voice. You need to know. Someone's going to twist what you said. They always do. And this time, it won't just be gossip. Keanu's brow furrowed. What do you mean? Brother works in media analytics, she whispered. There's already talk that clips from the show are being cut up in a way that'll make it look like you were attacking people instead of defending kindness. They're going to use it to discredit you. Keanu paused, considering her words. Then I guess the best thing to do is to make sure the truth is louder than the lie. He thanked her and walked out into the cold afternoon air. But her warning stayed with him. By that evening, the internet was a storm. Trending hashtags carried pieces of the exchange, some praising Keanu, others accusing him of being out of touch. A heavily edited video began circulating that showed Joy's sharpest lines, but cut out most of Keanu's responses. In that version, it looked like he had no answer at all. But then something unexpected happened. People who had been in the studio began posting their own videos, raw and unedited, showing the full exchange. The clip of the woman's story about the highway moment began spreading just as quickly, flooding timelines with something harder to twist - gratitude. Still, Keanu could feel a divide forming. This wasn't just about a TV moment anymore. It was becoming a question of who controlled the story. 3 days later, he was approached at a quiet coffee shop by a man in his late 40s with sharp eyes and a weathered coat. You don't know me, the man said, sliding into the seat across from him. But I know what's coming for you. Keanu studied him for a moment. And who exactly are you? The man leaned forward. Someone who's been on the wrong end of the same machine you're poking right now. I used to work for a syndicate of media consultants. Their job isn't to report the truth, it's to shape public perception to match whoever's paying them. You embarrassed the wrong person on live television, and now they're coming for your credibility. Keanu didn't react outwardly, but inside, something shifted. So what do you suggest? The man's voice dropped even lower. If you want to survive this, you need more than kindness. You need proof. Proof that their game isn't just happening to you, it's happening to everyone. And I can help you get it. Keanu sat back, his mind already moving through the possibilities. This was bigger than a headline. It's bigger than a morning talk show. And if the man was right, the real fight hadn't even started yet. The coffee in front of Keanu had gone cold, but he didn't touch it. The man across from him leaned forward, his elbows on the table, scanning the cafe like someone used to being watched. My name's Daniel, the man finally said. I was part of the media war room for years. I've seen how they plant a headline in the morning and have half the country believing it by nightfall. You've got the public's attention right now. That's dangerous. Keanu kept his voice calm. Dangerous for who? For them, Daniel replied. But also for you, because if they can make you look arrogant, hypocritical, or unstable, the goodwill you've built over decades disappears overnight. They're not after your career, they're after your credibility. And once that's gone, every story you tell about kindness will sound like a fairy tale to the people who need to hear it most. Keanu sat back, processing. But you said you could help me get proof? What kind of proof? Daniel pulled a small envelope from his coat and slid it across the table. Inside are addresses, offices, storage units, private studios, places where content gets manufactured, fake headlines, deepfake clips, scripts for talking heads. You show people this, they can't unsee it. But you can't just walk in. You need someone who knows the streets and the people running them. You're offering to be that someone? Keanu asked. Daniel hesitated. I'm offering to guide you, but I won't be the one in front of the camera. You need a local. Someone who understands being silenced. Keanu thought of the woman from the audience, the way her voice had shaken when she warned him. I might know someone. 2 nights later, under the yellow glow of a street lamp, Keanu met her again. Her name was Claire. She was nervous, clutching a worn messenger bag. You're really going through with this? She asked. If I don't, Keanu said, this doesn't stop with me. They'll keep doing it to whoever they need to. Claire glanced at Daniel, who was leaning against a nearby wall, smoking. And you trust him? "I trust that he knows the game," Keanu replied. Their first target was a nondescript office in an industrial district. During the day, it looked abandoned, but at night, faint light bled through the blinds. Daniel explained the routine delivery. Trucks arriving at odd hours, staff entering through the side door. Never the front. "They edit here," Daniel whispered as they crouched in the shadows. "Real footage comes in, manipulated footage goes out. Half the narratives you see on TV start in rooms like this." Keanu kept his eyes on the door. "We're not just here to expose them. We're here to connect this to what happened on The View." Claire nodded, pulling a small camera from her bag. "Then we get in, get what we need, and get out before they know we were here." They slipped through the side entrance during a delivery drop. The air inside smelling faintly of coffee and ozone from overworked electronics. Rows of computers lined the walls, each screen flickering with news clips paused mid-sentence. Some clips were marked with red notes, words swapped, expressions altered, audio trimmed out on one screen. Keanu saw something that made him stop. It was footage from The View, his interview, but edited in real time to make him appear to cut off the hosts. His words twisted into short, sharp phrases he'd never said. Claire's hands tightened on the camera. "They're already pushing it." Daniel's voice was tense. "Take it now. Once they realize what you've got, this place won't be here tomorrow." They captured minutes of footage, enough to prove what was happening. But as they headed for the exit, voices echoed. Down the hallway, two men speaking quickly, their footsteps getting closer. Daniel's expression hardened. "Go now." Keanu and Claire slipped into the night air, the cold hitting them like a wall. They didn't stop moving until they were 3 blocks away. "We have proof," Claire said, breathless. "Real proof." Keanu nodded, but his eyes were distant. Proof is one thing. Getting people to see it's the real fight. And somewhere back in the building they'd just left, a phone was already ringing. "They were here," a voice said. "And they took something." Asterisk, the proof sat in Claire's bag like a live wire. Every time the zipper shifted, Keanu felt the weight of it, a truth that could cut through the noise, but also put a target on their backs. They didn't go back to their homes that night. Instead, Daniel led them to a safe apartment above an old tailor shop. The room was small, the curtains heavy, the walls lined with stacks of old newspapers and film reels. "No Wi-Fi," Daniel said as he locked the door behind them. "No. Phone calls from here. They can trace your location, they'll find you before sunrise." Claire set the bag on the table and pulled out the small camera. She scrolled through the footage, her fingers trembling. The grainy clips from the office played back in silence, lines of code running under paused video frames. Editors splicing Keanu's words into something cruel and arrogant. Keanu watched without speaking until the screen showed one particular clip. Joy Behar's face frozen mid-sentence, the background slightly warped. The audio played, and it was his voice but not his words. It was a deep fake, subtle but unmistakable. Once you knew what to look for. "They've been doing this for years," Daniel said quietly. "Most people never notice. The brain fills in the gaps, believes what it hears if the face matches the voice. This is how they kill movements before they start." Keanu sat back, his jaw tight. "So now we have it. What's the plan?" Daniel paced the room. "We can't just drop it online. If we do, they'll say it's fake and bury it under 100 counter-narratives. We need a launch they can't control, one where the footage spreads faster than they can discredit." "It a live reveal?" Claire said suddenly. "Somewhere public? Somewhere they won't expect you to show up?" Keanu looked at her, a slow spark in his eyes. "And somewhere they can't cut the feed." Daniel frowned. "You're thinking of going back on air?" "Yes," Keanu said, "but not on their terms." For the next 2 days, they worked quietly, using public library computers, burner phones, and safe meeting spots. Claire reached out to a friend who ran an independent livestream channel with hundreds of thousands of followers. The channel was known for broadcasting without corporate filters, so once the host heard what they had, he didn't hesitate. The reveal was set for Friday night. During one of the channel's biggest live slots, they would play the footage in full, break down the edits, and show the raw, uncut clips from The View, alongside the manipulated versions. But by Thursday afternoon, Daniel spotted something troubling as they walked down a side street to avoid main traffic. A black SUV slowed at the corner. The windows were tinted, but Keanu caught a glimpse of a face cold, watching familiar. It was one of the men from the office. "Keep walking," Daniel murmured. They ducked into a busy market, weaving through stalls until they were sure the SUV was gone. But the message was clear. Someone knew they had the footage, and they were. Closing in that night, Keanu sat alone by the small apartment window, watching the street below. The city lights reflected in the glass, and for the first time since this began, felt the weight of what might happen if they failed. Claire joined him, holding 2 mugs of tea. "Do you ever wonder if it's worth it?" she asked. Keanu's single quotes. "Eyes stayed on the street. Every time. And then I remember the people who can't fight back, and I know it's not about me anymore." Friday came fast. The independent studio was hidden in the back of a music shop, the smell of vinyl records mixing with fresh coffee. Cables snaked across the floor, cameras set on tripods, lights adjusted for the broadcast, as the countdown to the live stream began. Daniel checked the doors twice, his hand never far from his phone. Claire sat at the control desk, queuing up the files. At 0. The red light on the main camera lit up. "Good evening," Keanu began, his voice calm but firm. "I'm here because you deserve to see something that was never meant for your eyes." The first clip rolled a side-by-side of the original view footage and the manipulated version. Gasps from the small crew filled the room as the differences became obvious, but just as the second set of files loaded, the studio lights flickered. The monitors glitched for a second. Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, his face darkening. "They know where we are." The red light on the main camera was still glowing, but the tension in the small studio was razor sharp. Daniel moved to the door, peeking through the narrow window. "2 men outside," he said. "Same kind of coats we saw near the SUV. There. Not here to talk." Claire's hands hovered over the keyboard. "We're still live. If they cut the power, we lose the broadcast." Keanu's voice stayed steady. "Then we keep talking until we can't. Roll the next clip." She hit play. The footage showed another deepfake edit, this time one of Keanu's interviews from years ago. It's altered to make it look like he'd mocked an entire community. The split-screen comparison was undeniable in the chat feed of the live stream comments. Exploded. "This is proof. How many others are fake? Share this before it's gone." Outside, the men began moving toward the door. Daniel locked it and grabbed a small folding chair, wedging it under the handle. "We've got minutes at most," he said. Keanu leaned toward the camera, his voice lower now, more urgent. "If you're watching this, don't just keep it. Send it to 5 people you trust. Send it to people who think they won't care. The truth doesn't survive if it stays in one place." The next file began to load footage from inside the editing office they had broken into. Keanu and Claire exchanged a quick glance. This was the most dangerous clip, the one showing the actual editors at work, splicing and altering reality. But before it could play, the entire building went dark. Only the glow from the control desk. Screens lit the room. Claire swore under her breath, fingers flying over the keys. They killed the main power. "Backup battery gives us maybe 5 minutes. From the door came a hard knock. Daniel's voice was low and tight. "There!" "Not leaving without something." Keanu moved beside Claire. "Can we cue the last file and push it to auto-upload if we lose signal?" she said. "But once it's out there, it can't be pulled back." "Good," Keanu replied. "Then do it." The pounding on the door grew louder. The chair rattled under the handle. Daniel braced himself, scanning the room for another exit. Claire's screen flashed green. "Uploading now." Keanu faced the camera one last time. "They don't get to decide what's real. You do. Remember that." The upload bar hit 100%. At the same moment, the door burst inward, the chair skidding across the floor. 2 men stepped in, their faces blank, movements quick. Daniel moved fast, blocking their path to Claire. "It's done," she whispered. Too late to stop it. One of the men reached for the camera, but Keanu stepped between them. His voice stayed calm, almost disarming. "You're already too late." If you do anything here, everyone will know exactly who you work for. The man froze for just a moment, long enough for the crew's backup plan to kick in. A small emergency light snapped on, bathing the room in red. Outside, distant sirens wailed. The intruders exchanged a glance, then turned and left without a word. When the door shut, Claire exhaled hard. It's out there, all of it, mirrored, shared, already spreading. Daniel gave a small nod. Now, the real war begins, because they'll try to bury it under 1,000 distractions. Keanu sat down, finally letting the weight of the night sink in. Then we keep going, not louder, smarter, because now people know. And once they know, they start to see it everywhere. Outside the studio, the city kept moving. Dot 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 Screens lighting up with the truth they had risked everything to release, and the people who had tried to stop them were already making their next move. Asterisk the morning after the live stream. The world felt different. News feeds were in chaos. About the view clash were now tangled with the footage Keanu, Claire, and Daniel had released. Some outlets called it the most important media leak of the decade. Others dismissed it as selective editing or an elaborate hoax. But the uncut proof was everywhere. Small independent channels, bloggers, and even some foreign news. Networks were replaying the side-by-side clips nonstop. The comments flooding in where relentless people were naming other times they'd seen strange edits. Moments on the news that felt off, but couldn't be proven. Inside the Taylor's shop apartment, Keanu sat with a mug of coffee, scrolling quietly through the reactions. Claire sat across from him, hair pulled into a messy bun, eyes red from staying up all night monitoring the spread. Daniel paced near the window, pulling the curtain back every few minutes to check the street. They're spinning it hard. Claire said, "Look at this, 3 big networks already have panels saying deepfakes are a conspiracy theory. They're bringing in experts to claim it's all just coincidental editing." Keanu didn't look up from his screen. That means it's working. It wouldn't fight this hard if people weren't starting to believe it. Daniel turned from the window. But there's something else. The SUV's back. Parked at the corner since dawn, same plate. What? Keanu set his phone down, so they know we're still here. Yeah, Daniel said. And they're probably deciding if they scare us out or drag us out. Claire closed her laptop. Then we go before they can make that choice. By mid-morning, they had split into separate routes, Daniel on foot. Claire on a bus to another safe house. Keanu taking a crowded train out of the district. But as the train rattled through the tunnels, he kept catching glimpses of people watching. Videos on their phones. A teenager in a hoodie replaying the deepfake comparison. A woman in a business suit scrolling through a thread of other suspicious edits. It's an older man nodding slowly as he read comments beneath the live stream replay. Keanu realized it wasn't about convincing everyone. It was about planting seeds, getting people to question, to notice, to care. 3 days later, they regrouped in a small cafe on the edge of the city. Claire had a new map on her tablet, marked with dozens of pins. These are independent reporters, activists, even a few insiders. They reached out after the live stream. They want to share their own footage, their own proof. Daniel leaned over the table. If we connect them, we've got something bigger than a single leak. A network they can't silence all at once. Keanu's voice was quiet but certain. Then that's the next step. We make it impossible for the truth to depend on one person. Over the next week, they worked in the shadows training volunteers on how to record and verify footage. Setting up encrypted channels, teaching people how to spot manipulated content. The more they shared, the more stories poured in. But there were signs of pushback. Keanu's next public appearance was canceled without explanation. Claire's email accounts were locked. Daniel spotted the SUV again, this time with two others. Following behind it still, the work continued. One night, as Keanu left a quiet meeting with new recruits, a man stepped out from an alley. Not one of the watchers from before, someone older, wearing a worn coat and a tired smile. "You don't know me," the man said, "but I've been watching what you're doing. You're not going to win every battle, but you've already made them bleed. Keep going." Keanu didn't answer right away. He just nodded. The man stepped back into the shadows. Disappearing without another word, Keanu walked on, the city lights stretching ahead of him, knowing the fight wasn't over. But now, it didn't belong to just him, or Claire, or Daniel. It belonged to everyone who had seen the truth and decided not to look away. And somewhere, in a glass office high above the city, a small group of people watched the network map growing on their screens. "It's spreading faster than we predicted," one of them said. Another leaned forward. "Then we adapt. This isn't the end," and they were right. It was only the beginning.